Hi, welcome back to Rhubarb Yoga. So we have another class today, another pose. Today's Trikonasana, triangle pose. And we're not going to just jump straight into it. The benefits of Trikonasana are that we can strengthen and slim our waist down, if that's what we need. But we get incredible leg strength from it too. Strong foundation builds up and creates strength, strong legs, a firm base from which to start. As with all poses and anything in life, a great foundation enables us to be straight, to be strong, to stand tall and carry on. So we're going to have to warm up those hips today. Nothing too strenuous, but you may need a block, so make sure you've got something. It doesn't have to be blocks if you don't have them. It can be chunky books. It can be a tin can in each hand, something that you can hold on to, bear weight into, and it's going to support you when you need it. Please don't pick anything soft, and don't pick anything that's going to roll around. So a Trikonasana, to open up the ability of getting our pelvis in that right alignment, we need to look at getting some hip movement. So we're going to do a couple of things. Now I've already looked at forward fold before, but we're going to look at a wide leg forward fold, or straddle as it can be called. So nice and simple, you do not need to worry about how far your feet are apart. It is absolutely unnecessary. We all have completely different dimensions to our bodies. Our legs and our arms are all very different lengths, and so please don't worry if you are not meters apart from each other. Taking our blocks, place them in front of you because they're easy to grab. So with straddle, let's come to our knees, and then we're going to stand up. Using our hands or the blocks, we're just going to simply widen our feet apart. And the only important thing with a forward fold or a straddle is that the feet are parallel. So if you want to stand up and have a look at those feet, they should be in line with each other. Not pointing in, not pointing out. We're going to do adverse things to the pelvis in that way. So we need to keep our feet nice and parallel for this one. We're just doing a warming motion. This is not actually a pose that we're going to concentrate on, but it's going to give us an opening around the hips and pelvis. It's going to enable us to access Trikonasana. So using our straddle, we're just simply going to grab our blocks, place them in front of us, and these can be at any height that's good for you. So they can be completely flat, midway, or tall, or no blocks at all. Make sure you find your comfort zone as we're warming up first. So with a straddle, what I want you to do is make sure when you look at the feet that you can feel the weight being even between it all. So roll forward and feel the weight coming up onto the toes, and even lift the heels off the floor if that's what you want to do. And then very gently roll back so you feel the difference in balance, and feel that weight suddenly coming into the heels. And now move forward until you feel a balance, until your feet feel more grounded and you feel like you've almost touched all four corners of your feet on the mat and they're secure. So once we've found that, what we need to make sure is that we've got a nice straight back. No curves, no arches, just nice and flat. So by dangling our arms, we have that perpendicular hanging motion. You can't do this when you're arching or rolling because you're going to know about it really quickly. So by finding that balance, just create a tabletop back. No arc, and just encourage a little bit of stretch at the back of the legs. You're going to feel it definitely as the thighs come into the bottom of the bum, into the bottom of the gluteus. You're going to feel that stretch there, maybe down the back of the thigh as well, even along into the calf and right down to the Achilles and the ankles. All we're doing is warming up. But if we warm up, there's no pain, no injury, and no risk of anything that is not how the pose is supposed to benefit ourselves. So just allow this to gently open the back of the legs. Now you can come slightly forward if you're feeling more comfortable. If you feel your legs are too wide, shuffle in, checking the toes are still perpendicular and parallel. Have a look. And if that's more comfortable, come forward a little bit, using the blocks, and just open up the back of the legs, stretching and increasing your flexibility. Just that little bit. And don't worry about how far you can't be flexible. Time, patience will always benefit us. So when we've come and done a little bit of stretching on our straddle, what I want you to do is I want you to double up your blocks, or something chunkier than that. Both hands, straighten the back again. Balance, make sure the weight is even in the four corners of the feet. The legs are feeling strong, and if the legs don't feel strong, I want you to bring the knees up, activate your kneecaps, activate your thighs, and you might suddenly feel a little bit of power. This is the front part of your legs switching on. You're already activating the back by warming them up, but by switching on the front of the leg as well, you increase the strength. It will reverberate down to those feet and increase your foundational strength too. So, we're going to come forward a little bit more if we want to, and stretch, and just open up all of the leg. And then when we're ready, heel toe the feet in. Now we are going to need the blocks for Trikonasana. So what we're going to do is we're going to place them at the front of the mat. Now with Trikonasana, again, it's best to start in straddle if you're unfamiliar. Once you get used to certain positions, you will know how it can be a transitional pose and move from one into another. Again, we've talked about push-off poses. And Trikonasana can come from downward dog, from a lunge, and from many different poses. But once you're familiar with that, you can work it into your own practice. So individually, like Trikonasana, we're going to open our straddle up again. And the important thing here, starting from the bottom, is our foundation. So we're not keeping our feet in straddle, we're going to turn one foot out to the short end of the mat. And we need to look where the heel is, and we're going to make sure that it's in line with the arch or heel of the back foot. That continues to ensure our pelvis remains horizontal, straight, but also balanced, and we're not hyperextending, twisting, causing any issues, none of which we want to create or make worse if we already have something down there that can give us pain. So looking at our feet, so our Trikonasana pose foundation is front foot ankle, pointing to the arch of the back foot, or the heel. And then I want you to gently turn that back foot out, just a touch, making it at an angle. Not a great deal, but you'll know. The distance is not important. There is a prediction that if we hung a string and a weight from our wrists, that is our own stride. But nobody can say that that's right or wrong. We are all different, so let's not worry about that. This is how we're feeling today. Tomorrow, we could feel stretchier. So looking at our feet and our foundation, let's make sure the weight is even too. Do we feel heavier in the front foot than the back? Let's try and make sure that those feet feel balanced. And then we're going to look at the hips. Gently turn and make sure we can feel those hip bones. And they are there, we've all got them. But we don't want to be twisting because we're not facing forward. We don't want to be pointing completely straight. So let's have a look at how we're working. Remember not to bend the front knee and the front leg. We can knock the kneecap out, twist it, even dislocate it. So take care when you're finding your first stages in Trikonasana and any pose that relies on knee and leg strength. So we're in our Trikonasana, and what I want you to do now is open the arms. Get used to that sensation, because we're going to be doing this in that direction. So we need to be familiar with how our arms and our shoulders are in line. And then I want you to keep your back arm on your back hip, because the front arm is going to create the space towards the foot. Now let's gain a block, and we're going to put it on the inside of our foot. And that is our target. We don't hit it, just create a higher target. So let's take our arm and we're going to lean forward, and as we lean forward, we'll feel a crease in the hip. And that's what we're aiming for, and it enables the body to open forwards. By doing that, we're going to start feeling a stretch up the back leg, into the hip, even into the waist. This is where the waist trimming comes from. Keep that hand on that hip to keep us grounded for the moment. Let's extend that arm out, and maybe further than the toe to begin with, and then we're just going to bring it towards the block. Now, if that is too far for you, thigh or shin, absolutely fine. Don't worry about where that hand can and can't reach. We're creating the shape here and the power in the legs, hips, pelvis and torso. It's not about the arms at the moment. So place that arm where it is comfortable for you on the block, and now allow yourself to find that shape. Make sure you put a little bend in that front knee to take the pressure off, and then realign the leg. And as we come into the Trikonasana, our arm should be maybe completely perpendicular to the shoulder. As long as it's in line, that's all we're looking for at the moment. And now we're going to pay attention to the back hip. So we've tucked this hip under, but we need to continue the realignment of the pelvis. So we're going to tip the pelvis up, and we're going to maybe feel a turn in this back leg, like we're trying to roll the hip out. And that's what we're looking for. Rolling this hip under, rolling that hip out. And that will create our balance in the pelvic bowl. And once we feel grounded and we feel secure, I want you to think about the top arm. It doesn't need to go up. This shape is what we're looking for. Activate the legs, switch them on, and you'll suddenly feel strength. It will keep the feet sturdy, and it will also keep those legs strong while you're trying to correct your pelvis and keep everything in line. Now think about that top arm, and that is going to create that perpendicular line from the top hand all the way down to the bottom hand in one long line, exactly as we were when we were standing. And now breathe. And as you breathe, I want you to try and open up along the front of the body. And enjoy that space. Ground the big toes of both feet. Push up through the legs and activate those muscles in the thighs, drawing up the kneecaps. And now take the pose. Bring the hand back down to the waist and bend the front knee so you can come out of the pose in your own time. Now if you find coming out of the pose too tricky like that, bend the knee, find your block and bring the back leg down. When you're working on poses that require your legs to be further apart than pelvis width, it normally can take a little bit of time for you to gain that strength in the internal thighs and the inner groins. So please don't worry about coming out of the pose. Safe and slow is more important than quick and fast and smart. So we're just going to rotate round and look at the other side. So let's put our blocks at the front of our mat, find our straddle, turn our foot towards the front of the mat and check our foundation, heel towards the arch or back, and now slightly angle the back foot. Already you'll feel that twist in the pelvis, so let's look at that and make sure it's nice and level. And then we're going to open the arms, find our balance, drop the back arm onto the hip and pull forward like you're getting pulled by a piece of string, elongating the body. It's going to elongate the side of the body as well, elongating along and the opposite ribs. It's going to open up, and now look at that crease. That crease has suddenly appeared. Keeping the arm on the back, and then grab your block, place it by your foot. And let's look at the higher option. As you can see, the higher option works perfectly well. And you'll find with your dimensions what works for you as you become more comfortable in the pose too. So the block can stay there, creating that nice line under the shoulder. We don't want it soft, we don't want it over. It's not going to keep our pelvis strong. It's not going to give strength to our foundation. So once we've found our position, let's roll the lower leg roll that hip over, opening it up. And so we're going to open up and then activate the legs. Push through the feet. And then you might feel you've got that space growing that you can roll the hip open, opening the front of the body. And push down onto the brick or the floor or your leg with your hand to create more space across the collarbones all the way into the top hand. And breathe. Coming out very gently, bending that front knee and taking care with those knees. When you're not familiar with poses that can be weight bearing and rely on the strength of your legs, it can take a little bit of time for your legs to feel strong enough to come back out how you were. I hope Trikonasana was something you can learn, something you can enjoy, or even just try once.